Alright, continuing on with part 4 of our game. Alright, so we have just finished adding the collision event with a fireball that the knight will have. So, just kind of recap on what we've done with the knight. The knight, again, is sort of the boss's fireball. So he's going to shoot these evil knights out. They're going to try to attack our dragon. And whenever the knights are created, remember we put a create event there. When they are created, they're going to start moving to the left at a speed of 12. We have a collision event with a fireball. So if our dragon shoots a fireball and it hits that knight, then it's going to get destroyed so that the computer doesn't have to keep track of it anymore. And we're going to set the score relative to 100. So remember that being relative to 100 is that it'll take the previous value and add 100 to it. And then I'll take the previous value and add 100 to it every single time that a fireball collides with our knight. We also made sure to do garbage collection by destroying any instance of a knight that leaves the room so that it's not stored in memory. We can free that memory up and the computer does not have to keep track of it. And then also, because our knights are going to be moving in random directions, up and to the left, down and to the left, or just left, in case they go up or down, we don't want them leaving the screen. We want them to reverse their vertical velocity so that they bounce. So if it's going down to the left and it hits the edge of the screen on the very bottom, it's now going to go up and to the left. Its horizontal velocity is going to stay the same, but its vertical velocity is going to just flip around. So that's what we've done with that so far. The last thing that we had to add is if the knight actually collides with the dragon. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So we're going to add another collision event. And if the knight collides with the dragon, what's going to happen? Well, if that happens, the game's going to be over, because one of the objectives of this game is to not get hit by the knights. So that'll end the game. Also, when the game ends, we need to make sure that we can restart the game so that the player can play it again. And we should also include the high score table. So let's do that. So collision with the dragon, we're going to first off show the high score table, and we have that right here under our score tab. We're here again. Remember, Game Maker has this really nice and easy score system that you can use if you want to, until we later on find ways to customize it more for our own uses. This is just like a nice, easy, bare bones way to keep score and have a high score table is really nice. So we're going to show high score. And here's some modifications you can do here. I'm just going to leave this default for me. So if I collide with the dragon, if the knight collides with the dragon, it's going to show the high score table. And then we don't actually have to destroy that instance, because that will happen naturally whenever we restart the game. So let's restart the game. If I can remember where that is. There it is. So under here in main 2, under the game category, we have some game functions. You can end the game, load the game, save the game. Right here we're going to restart the game. So collision with the dragon, we are going to show the high score table, and we're going to restart the game. So that is all we need to do for our knight. Alright, well now we need to actually produce the knight. We have to instantiate from the knight object multiple copies of the knight. Our boss is going to do that. So just like we shoot fireballs, our boss is going to be shooting these knights towards us. So how are we going to do that? Well, for the dragon, it's easy because we're controlling the dragon. So when we hit the space bar, we're going to make a fireball. But the boss is the computer player. So what we're going to do is actually use dice in a sense, and we're going to just roll a really high-sided die, and if it hits a certain value, then we're going to make the boss produce a knight. So it's just going to be random. So we're going to add an event on our boss, and we're going to go to the step event. Okay, so add a step event. Now a step is basically a main loop. Later on, we'll learn about main loops. We'll see them a lot. A main loop is what happens in every game or in every program out there. It's every time the CPU goes through, it just calculates and runs everything that needs to be run in the program. So if your game is running at 30 frames per second, in this case, every step is a 30th of a second. And every step, the computer is going to check on everything that you have. Every instruction that you have for the computer, it is going to check every 30th of a second. And that's what the step event is. So what we're basically going to say is that the event that is a step, so 30 times a second, we are going to roll a dice. And if that dice hits a certain number, then we're going to produce a knight, and he's going to shoot the knight out. And that's how we're going to get this random sampling of knights just shooting out. So what we're going to use is test chance. It's going to be in the control tab. So you see this little dice right here, and it's called test chance. So drag that over, and we'll make it 50-sided. So with a chance of 1 out of 50 to perform the next action. So again, every 30th of a second, the boss is going to roll a dice, and if it is a 1 out of 50, then it will do the next thing, which in this case is going to be producing a knight. So you can just think of it as a 1 out of 50 chance every 30th of a second to produce a knight. If he's shooting too many of them out, you can adjust that number, just make it a larger sided die. So now we're going to get our instantiation, our create instance, like we did before with the fireball. We're going to drag that down there. We're going to create a knight, and same thing as a dragon. We're going to make it relative, like what we did with the dragon. We made the fireball relative to the dragon so that it looks like it's shooting out of the dragon. We're going to make this relative to the knight. I'm sorry, to the boss, because we're in the boss's properties. So again, this is going to be the origin of where the center of the knight is. That's why it's relative. Otherwise, this would appear in the origin of the actual room. So we're going to make sure that we have that relative. So 150 chance, it will create a knight. So let's go ahead and see if that works. Go ahead and run our game here. Alright, there he goes. Look at him. Oh! And he hit the dragon, and what happened? High score. Except I didn't really score anything. So let's try to play this some. So he's shooting the knights. Also notice that the knights are bouncing off the walls. I mean off the top and bottom walls. I'm just trying to dodge him right now. So everything looks like it's working pretty good. If the knight hits the dragon, game over. I can shoot my fireballs. Let's see if I can shoot the knights. I can shoot the knights. Now, one thing I notice here that I don't like is that my fireball keeps going through the knights. It just keeps going. So if there's like 3 knights in a row, one fireball would take out all 3. And I don't think that's really fair. I think whenever you shoot a knight, the fireball should probably disappear because you've used it up. So let's change that just real quick. Think about it real quick how you could change that. There's always going to be multiple ways to do things. What I would do off the top of my head is I would go here to the fireball, and I would just add in a collision event here. So I'm going to add a collision event with a knight, and if I hit the knight, then I'm just going to destroy the instance of the fireball. I think that'll make it a little better. So let's run it real quick. See if that works. Alright, now notice that the fireball destroys the knight like it should. So I think everything's looking pretty good here so far. Oh, let's see what kind of score I get. Let me die. Alright, notice I got a score of 1,000. So that's working as well. It's really good to incrementally test your game out whenever you make some changes and make sure that everything is working how it's supposed to. That's a good way of finding out if you have any bugs in your game so far. Looks like my game's keeping score. Everything's running how it should. Put my name in there. Alright. Okay, so next thing is our baby dragon. So let's go ahead and add that object. We still have not done that yet. So object, let's call it object baby. Add your little dragon sprite. And this is going to be similar to the knight. So on creation, that's going to be our event. Whoops. Okay, we're going to, on creation, we are going to move to the left, and I'm going to make it a little slower. So on creation, we're going to move the baby dragon to the left. Again, the baby dragons, remember, they're coming out of the boss. The boss has stolen them all, and every once in a while they escape from the boss, and they fly towards you, hoping that you will catch them. So we're going to do that. Also, whenever they move outside of the room, we got to make sure we take care of that. If they move outside of the room, we will destroy an instance of them so that Game Maker does not have to keep track of them. Now, if they get hit with a fireball, that's not good. But we need to keep track of that. So we're going to add event, collision, fireball. If they collide with the fireball, they're going to be destroyed. And there's going to be a penalty for that. So we're going to go to our score, and we're going to make sure it's relative, and we're going to set it to be -300. So basically, if you shoot one of your own babies, you lose 300 points because that's bad and you shouldn't do that. So there, -300. And it goes away. Also, the fireball should go away. So just like we did with the knights, we should probably go back to the fireball here soon and add that on there as well to make sure the fireball destroys. Now, we need to also add a collision, another collision event with the dragon, because the whole idea of these baby dragons is that if you, the big dragon, pick them up, then that's a good thing, and you get a lot of points for that because you want to catch them, you don't want to shoot them. So if it collides with the dragon, we're still going to destroy the instance because it's going to look like you just picked the baby dragon up, so it's gone. But we're going to give the player a good score for that. So say 500 relative. So you get 500 points if you pick up and save the dragon, -300 if you kill the dragon. And I think that's it for that. Yep, looking good there. Let's go back to the fireball real quick. Add event, collision with the baby. And just like the knight, we're just going to simply just destroy it so the fireball doesn't just keep going through them. So let's just do that real quick. Alright, now the next thing we need to do is have our boss randomly shoot out babies. So we're going to come back here to our step event, and we're going to add another die. So let me find it. There we go. That took way too long for me to find. So we're going to add